We're in Myrtle Beach. We hung out at the beach today, and we're going to go out to dinner in a little bit, but we wanted to come on and say hello and see if there's any questions anybody has for us. Would be, love to be able to answer those questions, to be of service. It's our special day, but, whatever we can do to give back at the same time too, because we know a lot of you are struggling, and a lot of you are probably wondering, is it possible for someone like me to have a healthy relationship? Is it possible for someone like me to have love that doesn't feel stressful and overwhelming? And I just want to remind you that having love that feels good is possible for anyone. We just have to do the right work. We have to really look at ourselves and really learn to love ourselves and to be able to find the right partner and the right fit for us. And we've talked about this before, about how lucky we are that we did the work that we did and we found each other when we did, because it was the right time. It might have felt like we wanted to meet each other earlier, but we wouldn't have been the right fit then. We had to go through our journey to get to where we are now and where we were when we met 5 years ago.
Well, I think the most important thing to consider is that it's not a linear progression from where you are to where you want to be. There's magic that happens, and I'm a firm believer in that. And just from getting clear on what I wanted and working on becoming the type of person that I would like to be with, in principle, it's what laid the groundwork for attracting Steph into my life. So it's not about finding the right person, it's about being the right person. And it's such a different mindset than a lot of people have, because most of us have been taught that we have to actively go after and pursue and chase our dreams and try to control things, and we have to achieve a certain level of success or a certain ideal weight, or whatever the case is, before we can really put ourselves out there and attract the right person. But we're really putting the cart before the horse. When you're focused on outcomes, you lose the ability to really get traction on making true transformation. Besides which, the best part about relationships is not about finding some person that's going to make you happy. It's about learning how to be a happy person yourself, and then you just naturally attract those things. So that's the biggest thing for me, and it's really just a huge change from what most of us were taught. So I think it's really worth considering that if you're not in the relationship that you want now, stop trying to find that person. Seriously, give it up.
That's huge.
And it may sound counterintuitive, but again, I have direct proof in my own life that once you become less needy, you become less attached to outcomes, not only will you attract more productive relationships, the right types of relationships into your life, but you'll be more in tune and present moment focused when opportunities come up, so that you can take advantage of the lessons that the challenges in life are here to teach us, and you can learn them, get over them, and then move forward.
And I like what you said, because when I actually did finally meet David, I was in a place where I was completely fine being single for the rest of my life. I mean, that was definitely where I was at. I wasn't actively looking for my soulmate. I wasn't actively looking for someone to be with for a long period of time. I just was doing me and enjoying being single and having the freedom. And I think that that's such a really important piece of that healing, is to enjoy the freedom of being alone. And for a lot of people, that word alone is so scary. But when you really feel that freedom of being alone, when you meet someone and you're trying to decide whether or not you want a relationship with them, you should still be holding on to that freedom. That freedom should still be there. When we got together, it was not about David turning me into someone else and caging me. It was about still us allowing each other to be who we are and to support each other in our own individual journey, as opposed to me having an opinion of what he needed to do and be, and the same thing for him to me. I had never had that before. I had never experienced that before. So to be able to really have the freedom in a relationship and to feel that peace and calm, you feel that inside of you, and that helps you attract the right people in your life. It doesn't even necessarily have to be a romantic relationship. It's attracting the right people in general.
Well, the other thing that I think is important is, and I see a lot of it in the groups, or people talk about, oh, I'm done with relationships, and it's a subtle distinction, but it's not about, cutting yourself off. It's shifting your focus, because while it is important, like Steph said, to focus on doing the inner work, you still have to be open to what the universe brings you. And I think probably in one of my posts on probably our first or 1 year anniversary, I think I quoted Joseph Campbell and essentially saying that we must be willing to let go of the life we have planned in order to receive the life that's waiting for us. And so there was part of me in the maybe 3 years or so prior to meeting Steph, when I was single, that had said, okay, I want to be single, I don't want to be tied down, blah blah blah. I reached a point where, again, it wasn't that I was closing everything out. I was actually focusing on myself more, not in a selfish way, just doing the work I needed to do, which it turns out was better for me and everyone else. But I became more open to what the universe has planned, and I'm not going to go into the religious or spiritual or philosophical deep end, but it was probably one of the more impactful mindsets that I've had, because there's an intelligence out there that's far greater than our cleverness. And it's like we're gardeners. We're all we do is plant the seeds, but we can't make the rose bloom. All we can do is tend to the garden and nurture the plant, nourish the soil. So it's a co-creative act, and I think that's true with anything, especially relationships, especially when you consider that there's this sort of hidden dynamic, this series and set of roles that we have to play, and this interplay in our own lives. And again, there's this magic that happens, but it's not all a matter of us trying to figure things out and nail things down and be in control of everything. It's a bit of control, and it's a bit of letting go. And
to have the plan of what we want and go with the flow of what gets us there, and to stop forcing things, because sometimes we have a plan of what we want, and we start realizing, oh crap, that's not exactly going well. And what a lot of us do is we force that. We have this goal, so I have to get there no matter what, and then we force it, and it doesn't work. So a lot of people that are in relationships, like for me in my first marriage, well, it has to work because I'm a certain age, and I want to do all these things, and I have to be married, and I have to make it work. And I mean, all of these ideas that I had, I was forcing something that wasn't real and wasn't natural.
Right, and you don't give up on a relationship. You don't divorce.
Yes.
And, I kind of had that principle in the back of my mind too, which is why for the later part of my life, certainly I was convinced that I only wanted to be married once. And that's still the case. I just happen to, do my thing. And
you did the right work ahead of time.
So I struck gold on my first swing. But you really have to be able to let go of how, have an intention. Definitely have a clear intention on what you want, and get as specific as you want. Steph and I tell the story all the time about how we literally independently, prior to meeting one another, wrote down specific lists of the things we wanted, the attributes, the qualities of the person that we wanted to marry. And it's uncanny how much of that stuff came true. In fact, I think, you checked off everything on my list, and to my chagrin, added a few things that I didn't realize that I would be in love with. So, have a clear intention.
Same thing.
Have a clear intention on what you want, but don't have a rigid attachment to how these things manifest in your life. You got to be willing to let things flow into your life, and if nothing else, it's just gives you a lot less stress, a lot more peace of mind, and you can sort of have a sense of awe and wonder and gratitude and not needing to control everything and just marveling at how it plays out.
Yeah, and having that self-esteem to know yourself well enough. And, when I had my list that I was creating, some people say, oh, I'm being too picky. Well, when you really know yourself, you know what you want. You know who works well with you. You know the kind of partner that you're looking for. So I had gotten to a point where I thought, if I cannot find someone that marks these little boxes on my list, then I'm just going to be single. And I really got okay with that. And I think that that's really what you have to keep in mind is who is lucky enough to be with you? Have you done the work that you need to do where you know yourself and you know what you would like in a partner and what you really think works well? And again, like David said, there are things that you will find that are like, oh, there's all these other things too that you happen to also have. But you kind of have to have those basic values of what it is that are needs and have-tos, and the things that are like, oh, I could be open to those other things. And when that person doesn't fulfill those have-tos, you have to say to yourself, are they actually have-tos? And if they are, be ready to walk away. You have to be ready to walk away from something that doesn't feel right and not force it. Because if you try to force it, and like I always say, trying to get that square peg into that round hole, you can keep jamming it in there and it'll finally fit in there, but it's going to be destroyed. Who wants to do that? You don't want to destroy your partner. You don't want to see the potential and make them into the person you want them to be. That's not normal, human behavior. That's not allowing the other person to be them. So really finding out who you are, what you want, what you'd like in a partner, and then going with the flow of how it gets you to, how the universe gets you there, if at all. Maybe this lifetime you stay single and be okay with what happens. It's when we don't force that we find what we're looking for.
Well, there's another distinction I want to make, which is about your point about have-tos. We really got to be mindful of our requirements, because you could insist that things turn out a certain way or progress a certain way, and that doesn't mean that that's what's best for you.
Mm-hmm.
So another aspect of preparing yourself for the best relationship is really examine your list of requirements and learn to let go.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you have fewer requirements and fewer expectations, you naturally have fewer limitations. And this is not sacrificing your integrity or your greater desires. Yeah. It's a willingness to be more open. And part of this process, again, is pruning away the stuff that is really not the best for you. Mm-hmm. And again, it's not a matter of saying, well, I'm going to make this hard and fast list, because it's only partly about that. So you have to be willing to let things go. And at first it might feel like you're giving up things and sacrificing, but you'll wind up finding out, and this goes back to that magical aspect, mm-hmm. the less rigid you are in your pronouncements, the more easily the things that are aligned with your higher nature will flow in. And I use the analogy of flow, and it's a spiritual concept used throughout the Tao Te Ching, of which I'm a student, but the idea of water, like if the flow of water in a river is abundance, you can't experience it by grabbing it and squeezing it. It will just flow through your fingers and you've got nothing. You have to be open. You have to relax into the flow. You have to let your hand enter it and be submerged. You really have to let go. So
we don't attract what we want, we attract who we are. So if we have work that we need to get done, and and I say list, there were the things on the list that I wanted, that I knew would be good for my partner, but it's such a deeper connection than those things. And it's been wonderful to just be able to, we talked about this morning, how it's just wonderful that the love, it's 4 years. So for a lot of you that have been married for a long time, you're like, oh, that's so cute, it's only 4 years. But I've loved the fact that, in those 4 years, the love has changed. It's a deeper love. It's a committed love that is every day getting to watch him on his journey, figuring things out for himself, and to watch him get to be a father and get to be a husband and get to do all of those things and to experience that part of it together. It makes it deeper. It's more than just that romantic love. When you get to really see someone in all their vulnerability, it's really hard to say that there's anything more beautiful than that. It's someone to just be them without pretense.
Well, the fact that we've done the work on ourselves has made being in this ultimate relationship less of a struggle. You still have to put in effort. You still have to show up, but the bigger part of the effort is staying true to yourself and your own higher virtues, regardless of the other person's opinion. And again, you decide for yourself where the lines are and where you're willing to sacrifice your own ego demands,
where the boundaries
for
go,
for the greater good. But it's not about making the person into something else. It's not about manipulating either actively or passively. It's about none of that stuff. And the whole concept of relationship changes from something that's there to make you happy or fill a void. It changes into, this is the environment I've chosen to be in to allow my deepest love to flourish. It's got the feeling of coming home.
Yeah, that's home for sure. Well, so thank you all so much for tuning in. I think we're going to go celebrate with some champagne and the rest of the family. But we wanted to, yummy. But we just wanted to, share our love with all of you and thank all of you for the work that you do and showing up to the group and doing the work that you're doing for yourself to create your best life. It's not easy, but it's one of the most important things that I've ever done. And the life that I have now would not be that had I not done the work earlier. So, you got to push through the shit sometimes to get to the other side, and it feels like that. I mean, that water can get really muddy, and we start feeling like, is it possible? Can I do this? Maybe I should just go back to the way things were before. Well, if I were to have gone back to the way things were before, I wouldn't get this universe. I wouldn't get to experience this. I would be waking up every day, unhappy with the life that I was living. And that's not where I am, luckily. And I hope that for you, I hope that that's not where you are, and you decide to make today the beginning of the rest of your life that's the best of your life. Because I don't care who you are, I don't care how old you are, I don't care where you've been, what you've seen. Today is a good day to start creating what you want from your life. You deserve it.
And to kind of follow that thought, there is a real benefit to all of humanity by each of us doing the individual work. So kudos to all of you in our groups that are following along with this and making the tough choices and facing your fears and insecurities, and the biggest part, or one of the biggest parts to making change is self-honesty. The reason that we continue grinding through unhealthy patterns is because we refuse to acknowledge what we already know. I'm willing to bet that most of our partners in these groups already deep in their heart know what they need to do. It's just that it may be just that the fear of change is too great. The fear of the unknown is too great. So we aim to be a support structure and a forum for people to hash this stuff out. And change doesn't have to be difficult. But if you want it to be real, then you damn well better recognize you got to face up to the stuff that you might have been ignoring. If you feel like, oh well, for years I've been saying, oh, it's because of this circumstance, or my baby daddy's an asshole and I can't get away, or whatever the case is. Like, you can find and make a list of a million excuses if you want to. But whatever the circumstance is, or set of circumstances that you find yourself in right now, ultimately you have to face up to what you know and start making changes based on that. So now our little man is coming over.
He wants to make his little. You want to say hi to everybody?
Hi.
So this is one of the fruit of our loins. Our sweet little boy Zachary.
Yeah.
More proof that the universe works in miraculous ways. When we had him, I was 40 and you were 37, and by some accounts, 38. Not able to have kids, and we have Zachary and Sophie, and they are beautiful and healthy and sweet and fun, great personalities, and they enrich our lives, and they're just two of the many factors that we're grateful for. And I'm not special. I think
Of
you
course
are
you
kind
are.
of special. But my point in saying that is that we all have access to this, and there's a greater power that brought us here. And again, you can believe whatever you want to believe, but if nothing's for certain and it's all belief systems, we might as well set up the rules for success. Let's not fight it. If this is all just in our imaginations, it's all a dream, and whatever, might as well believe that the greatest things are possible.
Yeah.
And as you believe, so will you be eventually.
You can choose to live and create your best life, or you can choose to live in a life that you're not so happy with. No matter what, we all end up the same place.
Yep.
So, you know what? I want to wake up every day and be happy and be with my best friend and share, enjoy every single day. That is my choice. That is our choice of what we want to do, and I hope that you choose the same way.